Cable Access 53 presents Finding the Advertocracy. In the 1940s, the Germans and Japanese were our enemies. They were sneaky, subhuman, and barbaric. They possessed unusual-looking brains. Then we became friends. Now it turned out the Russians and Chinese possessed unusual-looking brains. It turned out they were our enemies. But President Eisenhower disagreed. He said the greatest threat to our country was internal, something he called the military-industrial complex. He worried that Americans were being brainwashed so that weapons and pharmaceutical companies could profit from our befuddlement and terror. Nobody listened. Now the Russians and Chinese have become our friends, and Eisenhower is remembered as a very bad president. Some even say his brain looked unusual. Have you ever stopped to wonder who is telling us to think these things? And what if Eisenhower was right? Did we ever vanquish our foe within, this military-industrial complex? Do you sometimes wonder who gives us our ideas? And who profits by scaring us each and every day? In the 1940s, the Germans and Japanese were our enemies. Then we rebuilt them to look more like us. They made weapons and pharmaceuticals. We paid their bills. They became industrial giants. We wrote their advertisements. Now their brains look just like ours. Most people consider America a free and equal society, though the wealthy are above the law and the poor dig through garbage looking for food. Most people believe that if a repressive state took root in America, it would be obvious. But what if the government used words and pictures to repress us, employing the techniques of advertisements? What if the advertisers themselves ran our repressive state? How would we know? In essence, every huge company would belong to them, because companies depend on advertising. The advertisers, these invisible intermediaries, would convince us what to buy, how to behave, the things to fear, to think. They'd hide behind our helplessness, encouraging us to believe in complicated technologies we could not possibly comprehend. They'd call this progress. Progress is a good thing. They would convince us that the hydrogen bomb and the Salk-Sabin hoax polio vaccine were necessary for our national security. The advertisers would give us our ideas. Such a state would be called an advertocracy. In an advertocracy, a series of media campaigns would gradually undermine the consumer's identity. Clusters of useless information would cause momentary bursts of total amnesia. Befuddled and terror-stricken, the consumer forgets him or herself. Friends become enemies, in possession of unusual-looking brains. In an advertocracy, the presence of a military-industrial complex would be flatly denied. Able to distract us with this or that item of handsome finery, the true government would never reveal itself, and never fall prey to recall or popular referendum. In an advertocracy, we would never know we were receiving clear orders on when to be fit, when to be fat, when to be wooed, when to be wild. At first, there seems no way an advertocracy could come to pass in America. Is it not true that advertising agencies compete with each other for clients? How could they possibly cooperate well enough to run a government? That is, unless there was only the perception of competition. Unless there was, in truth, only one advertising agency in America looming over the landscape, flattening the smaller ones through its sprawling network of affiliates. There is only one such agency in America. Only one diverse enough to run our lives. Only one profitable enough to buy our minds. Their eyes have scanned the script of every show you've watched. Their ears are tuned into your most private thoughts. You do not know their name, but they know yours. They are Beragalum-Mahoney, the most profitable conglomerate in history. When you go out, they come in. They eat your porridge, break your chairs and lay down in your beds. They cook your grandmother and wear her clothes. They huff and they puff and they blow your house down. Beragalum-Mahoney. Their labs built the bomb, the pill, the credit card. There is nothing in this world they want more than your money, except possibly more of your money. If they were stranded on a boat with infants, Beragalum-Mahoney would think nothing of devouring them for nourishment. The most successful advertising agency in the world. Daddy's sporting events come courtesy of Beragalum-Mahoney. Little Sammy's soft drinks, his stealth aircraft and smart bombs, Little Sally's soap operas, all sponsored by subsidiaries of Beragalum-Mahoney. The President, his cabinet, the legislative and judicial branches are all beholden to Beragalum-Mahoney. Even Mommy's cigarettes come from Beragalum-Mahoney. They obey only one law. And so we find that President Eisenhower was right. Our enemies are not German or Japanese, neither Russian nor Chinese. They are American. The Advertocrats of Beragalum-Mahoney are the enemy. Can decent people ever defeat them? It's unlikely. Highly unlikely. The Advertocracy can survive bombs and boycotts, pistols and petitions. They cannot be killed. Yet we are obligated to try. Begin today by turning off commercials. Peer past everyday appearances. And there you will find the Advertocracy. This is where tomorrow's battles will be waged.